following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WZWA Network here with our review from today's AEW Fight for the Fallen episode of Dynamite. I am your host here with another co-host of mine. I'm Karlifornia alongside my co-host right here, right now, the one and only Juicy Boy. How are you, Juice?
How are you, Carl? It's good to be here. I mean, you and I, we watched the show earlier, and we watched it together. So we're really in sync on the whole experience, and I'm excited to be going over it here with you right now.
Yeah, man, I feel like I'm a little bit sleep deprived and my intro was a bit awkward, but it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? So today, you know, was this show that took place. It's their regular TV show. It's Dynamite, but they've been doing a lot of these like specials here and there. They had the Fighter Fest Part 1, Part 2. And next week is like Homecoming, etc. You know, so like I'm digging the way that they're doing this kind of thing. And this is Fight for the Fallen, DJ. Bro, I want to kind of start this thing off by like, before we get into the show, I just want to get some thoughts from you about like your general feelings towards AEW and the shows that we've watched in the last few months.
Well, I definitely say that my interest in AEW has been very steadily growing. There's still a lot of problems I have with the show, a number of things that I still really don't like, but I think they've taken a number of steps in a positive direction as far as making the show like must-see TV for a wrestling fan, which they've been doing really successfully with all their work with other promotions, and as we saw here on this show, bringing in guys like Nick Gage and the guys from Japan, and I think that's really making it heightening the interest for me.
Yeah, fair enough, bro. And I kind of feel like, well, I mean, you know, if anyone out there has really been following a lot of our Four Horsemen review shows of the AEW pay-per-views and Blood and Guts as well. That's the only 3 shows in full I've seen of AEW's Revolution, the Blood and Guts episode of Dynamite, and Double or Nothing this year. And I was heavily critical of a lot of that. I think as times wore on, the critiques haven't been as large in size. I haven't like hated 100% of the show. Like I didn't really enjoy Revolution very much at all. But I've kind of feel like slowly but surely, like I'm enjoying little bits here and there. But so that's why going into this episode, it was making me think of like, why am I interested in watching this? Quite simply, it was Nick Gage and Chris Jericho. So like, although I'm like a diehard wrestling fan, I don't watch today's product very often with either company. And if I do, it's usually like the big shows like WrestleMania, etc. So like
I catch up with highlights and stuff. So
yeah, like it's weird being like this like knowledgeable fan DJ, but also feeling like I'm a casual fan. And in this day and age of wrestling, and this was the thing that got this casual fan kind of like, you know what, I want to check out this, and I might as well watch the whole episode as well. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to throw out there. What do you think about that? You know, do you think this could have like piqued interest from people that wouldn't necessarily watch AEW?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that what they're doing is, it's definitely going to draw in the hardcore wrestling fan. And I think that, it is the kind of thing that's going to draw in that wrestling fan that's resistant to AEW or isn't really that interested. I think that it's definitely, honestly, it piqued my interest as well, because if nothing else, it was going to be a spectacle to behold, good or bad. So, that's the kind of thing that wrestling in general needs more of, I think.
Absolutely. And, it just, you think of something like this and you're like, WWE would never do this. They never bring in a guy for one shot to do something like this. Never, no chance. So, like, it is an interesting thing that AEW are doing right now with this forbidden door. I really don't like the saying because people are
it's, you know what? I'm going to say this right now because you brought it up, Carl. I don't like the fact that they keep making it into a thing that they're constantly referencing now. You know, it's like how WWE always does that shit too. It drives me crazy. They've always got to pat themselves on the back and try to create their own phraseology for, you know, whatever the initiative might be. And now AEW is doing the same thing. Forbidden door this, forbidden door that. It's not as cool if you fucking acknowledge it like that. It's cooler if you just leave it unsaid.
Just let it happen. Just let it happen.
Let it unfold.
Yeah.
Let it unfold. Stop trying to define it. Stop trying to label it. Despite what they do now, the WWE didn't call it the Attitude Era back during that time. They just called it Raw and SmackDown.
That's it. That's 100% it.
This is not the Forbidden Door era. This is just some cool things that are happening right now in AEW because they're working a lot with other companies and other individuals that are sort of making waves in the industry.
Absolutely. So let's get to the show, DJ. To open up the proceedings, we had a nice little promo for Hangman Page and I guess the Dark Order as well. Talking about, him being a cowboy. Not all cowboys need hats or whatever it is. Nice little package. We get to the match. It's Adam Hangman Page and the Dark Order taking on the Elite in a 10-man tag team match. DJ, your thoughts on the match?
Where do I even begin here? So, all right. So the concept of the package for Adam Page about him being a cowboy and stuff, it's an endearing idea. It puts over the character. It kind of makes him likable a bit more, that endearing quality that you look for in a baby face that you're trying to build up. But then the problem is they stuck all the Dark Order guys in it as well, like the Mask guy, and they're doing the fucking Dark Order thing. And like, they aren't cowboys at all. They have nothing to do with cowboys. Their gimmick is not anything related to cowboys or Southwestern culture, country Western culture. Yeah. So it just looks so out of place to me to have them in there. That should have been a spotlight thing that, just shone on Adam Page alone. And, the Dark Order's in the match. That's great, but they didn't really need to be a part of the package. The match, oh, no, hang on, man. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The fucking basketball entrance that the Elite did. Okay, the Elite are supposed to be heels, right? They're supposed to be heels going into a very serious, very personal 10-man tag where the opposing team is spearheaded by a former friend and running buddy of theirs that now they're having this feud with, and it's a serious thing, and if they get beaten by their former friend, then, they're in trouble, especially Kenny Omega, who's the champion of the company. They're also the heels in this situation. They come out dressed as the Toon Squad from Space Jam, obviously in conjunction with Space Jam 2 that's just come out. And they're doing annoying little basketball tricks, and there's basketball hoops, and Don Callis has the little short shorts and stuff like that. That completely undermines the entire purpose of what you're doing. That completely undermines the whole context and the flavor of the moment that should be being presented. So it's just completely out of place in this particular situation. If it was just a standard episode of Dynamite and there wasn't all this story being built into this matchup here, I wouldn't mind as much. But even then, you've got the heel team doing what is clearly going to get them a babyface reaction and a babyface pop. And in my view, all it did was take a bunch of heat away from Adam Page and his team because they entered first. And that's not what you want. You want the heat to be on. You want everyone to look at Adam Page like he's an animal that's just about to be released from a cage on these guys. And instead they're fucking playing tiddlywinks and fucking doing fucking shit basketball tricks that they obviously didn't rehearse, by the way. So don't even put a lot of effort into it, why don't you? And, completely undermining the sort of gestalt that they should have been trying to present with a match of this magnitude. We get in there. There's a bunch of sloppy stuff at the beginning, a lot of fucking around. There's a lot of I feel like it's almost stalling and just a lot of filler for the first sort of 15, 20 minutes of the match. Young Bucks or Omega, none of the Elite are taking the match seriously. It just seems like every opportunity is a chance for them to pop each other and try to pop the fucking Elite fanboys in the crowd and stuff like that. And it was just felt like it was a circle jerk for them. Start getting in about 20 minutes in, match starts heating up, things are getting good, everything's, the match is actually starting to heat up at this point and starting to get interesting. Then they go and do the fucking Meltzer driver in the middle of, this heated match with the fucking basketball hoop where the guy that's flipping that normally lands on top of the other guy in the Meltzer driver is going to try to dunk the ball on his way down doing the Meltzer driver, but he actually misses the fucking shot completely, even though he's really close to the hoop, and fucking the Meltzer driver looks shit, whereas it would have looked a lot better and cleaner had they just done it without fucking around with the basketball hoop, none of which should have been a part of the match to begin with, and which they stunted the fucking, momentum of the match to do and try to fuck around with, and which nobody really liked anyway. I hardly heard. It's not like, if anything, the crowd were like jeering it and making fun of it, and it was not in like a heel heat, a positive kind of way. And fucking John Silver, fucking not very big guy, short kind of guy, doesn't really look special, but he's clearly got some talent in the ring, and he's got some charisma and a connection with the fans. Why didn't he eliminate Nick Jackson when he hit that big spinning finishing move?
Yeah.
Why not? What would that have hurt?
Yeah.
To have Nick Jackson actually be taken out by this guy, that would have made John Silver.
Yeah.
But instead, no, he just kicks out, makes John Silver's finish looks weak. And then, Silver gets eliminated anticlimactically. Just
yeah.
Rest of the match was pretty competent. I don't really have a ton to say about the specifics. It should have really come down to Matt Jackson and Adam Page because Omega's the champion and you can't really pin him. But I really think that Adam Page should have gotten the winning pin in this match. I felt like that they built it that way and I was invested in it, and I'd like to see that for him now. And they didn't really. I would have been really excited and positive feeling about Adam Page's trajectory had they done that. And I know they're obviously trying to build it up and stuff like that, and it's a wait and see type thing, but they missed an opportunity there. He should have just been the one to get the win.
Right.
The Elite, fucking idiots. They really, no matter how competent they were at the things that they actually did in the ring, which some of it was impressive and athletic, their demeanor and tone out the whole match just really consistently seemed like they were shoving it in my face that, this is fake. This is just performance art. We could care less what you think about it because it's all just a game for us. Look at us on our big, fancy, multi-million-dollar TV show that we're getting a chance to do this. Like, fuck you, Jim Cornette, and everyone else that fucking is a wrestling traditionalist. Look at us. Yeah. And that's the whole vibe that I got from the Elite throughout most of this match. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I resound with a lot of what you've said here, and I wanted to kind of expand on some of that with some thoughts. Obviously, yes, we're watching this together. When they came out to the Toons squad, and that dan 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 dan, like I get it if you're a babyface team, and you're trying to get under the heel skin or something like that, but they're the heels, and it's what they're doing here is essentially trying to be entertaining, right? But it's, as you said, taking away from the seriousness of the situation, and this is like a big reason as to why I can't go in with both feet into getting into AEW, because when they do stuff like this, it makes me want to keep holding AEW at arm's length, because it kind of insults my intelligence as a wrestling fan. And so that's like the first point I wanted to make, is that I really feel like it just hurts. It pops those elite fans, those fanboys and all that, but you want to keep reaching out to people like me and people like you, and they keep holding us at arm's length because that this is shit that I don't want to see. And the fact that the four VPs of the company are the four guys that, excuse me, I'd like the least in the company, that to me says a lot, I think. And I don't think that they should be in the positions that they're in behind the scenes, because every time they seem to do whatever it is that they want to do, it comes across to me like Bush League, and it comes across to me like embarrassing. Like, that's how I feel anyway.
It's self-congratulatory.
Yeah, exactly. And look, the match began, as you said, at the beginning, it was these fucking spots with the things to the outside, everyone get into a little pack. I've always hated that. And we're going to talk about how to do that stuff properly later on when we talk about FTR and Santana and Ortiz. Yeah. But, they do it because they just want to do it, not because it makes sense. They completely ignored the tag team rules for the first 10, 15 minutes of the matchup to do all this hokey shit. And then, we start to see some eliminations, and it starts to kick into high gear. And as you said, John Silver. Mm-hmm. Previously, I wasn't like much of a fan of his, because all I'd seen of him was in one of those things, the tag team Casino Royale, and whatever it was that he did in that match seemed over rehearsed for me. But this is the part of the match that I guess really pissed me off the most. Was he fucking came in like a house of fire, and he fucking, was it Nick Jackson?
Yeah, I think so.
And he, whichever one it was, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one it was, but he hit that incredible move. That would have been perfect. It would have made him 1, 2, 3. It would have make people see him in another light, now that you can see that he can actually get a pinfall on a young buck. And it shouldn't be that difficult to get a pinfall on a young buck, because they're not that big. But, I guess resiliency and heart, it can be a thing or whatever. But I just felt like it was unnecessary to do that, and then completely cut into the match and the momentum of where it's going to do this spot with the basketball hoop. It made no sense to stop everything. We need to do this thing now. They didn't need that spot whatsoever. What should have happened was John Silver pins this Jackson twin, and then it's down to one of the Young Bucks, Omega, Hangman, and Silver. Okay, then at that point, if Silver gets eliminated by the other Young Buck or by Omega, fine. Now it's down to 2-on-1. Now you got the odds, it's still 2-on-1 instead of 3-on-1. Now you might think, okay, Hangman Page has a real chance here. He could probably beat 2, but 3 is probably a bit of a stretch. That's when you have him eliminate one of the Jackson twins. And then that's when it goes down to him and Omega. But obviously, 2-on-1, maybe he's expended too much energy beating that young buck. Omega manages to get the win with some bullshit with the title belt or whatever. That would have been fine with me if Omega won that way. But I just did not like the way that they went about it. I felt like they just fucked John Silver over here, and it would have been better booking it the way that I just suggested it. So, I guess just to put a bow on this matchup, it was the low point of the show for me. It went way too long. I feel like they could have told the story that they needed to in 20 minutes, not 30 minutes. And you could have used that 10 minutes to give, a bit more time for the Christian Cage.
Six man later on.
Maybe another 5 minutes for the girls' match or something else. But were you going to say something there?
Well, just summing up, I'd probably rate this opening match probably about, 4. Just barely a 5 out of 10. My final thing I'm going to say is just if you're not going to take the match seriously, why are you giving it serious amounts of time like that? Completely unnecessary. So,
Yeah, I'm seeing a theme with the Young Bucks.
mhm.
They get a lot of time, and they seem to open a lot of the shows. So they get that hot part of the crowd, like Revolution. Didn't they open up against MJF and Jericho?
They opened up against
Open up
Mox and
against Moxley and Kingston. And again, that match got given way too much time. So I feel like they're just giving themselves as much time as they want because they want to do all these things when really they can make their point in a smaller amount of time and give some of that time to someone else. We might have been able to have like another match take place on the show, you know, get someone else over that maybe hasn't been seen in a couple of weeks or whatever. But anyway, let's put a bow on that one, DJ. You know, I just felt like this was the low point of the show. But okay, here we go. Now, I want to say at this point, I really feel like this was the best AEW show I've seen. That was the low light. Everything from here on, I'm probably going to have a lot of positive to say about it. The next segment, I really enjoyed. Starks comes out to make a promo. You know, Taz is on his podium. That pops me that he gets his own little podium. I liked it. The only thing, DJ, that I would have done to improve that, I wouldn't have had the marching band all around the ring dressed in kind of like just a t-shirt and jeans. Excuse me. I would have had fucking them come out first in outfits with the big hats and the loud outfits in the same color scheme as Team Taz, marching down to the ring. I would have had balloons and you make it way over the top. He's just cutting a little promo to celebrate winning this title that no one really defends that often.
It's not even really a real title.
Not even supposed to be a real title. That's what would make me pop over that. So, and then him and Hook should come out, you know, way over the top with excitement. You got the marching band coming out. The last two in the marching band are obviously going to be right at the front of the ring. They're the plants who are going to take the bump from Gage. Okay, they can pretend to be hitting shit along the way to the ring. You won't notice because the rest of them are professionals. It would have just made the whole scene look bigger and more exciting. And it would have made it stand out more than already having random people in T-shirts with no hats on playing around the ring. But like, I did kind of laugh at it, but I just felt like you could have made that so much bigger. And obviously, Brian Cage comes out. You know, he does what he does. I found it funny, him dunking the fucking drum on the guy's head. That was cool. Starks powders or whatever. That's great. It's just a small little thing, but it helps continue their story. So yes, I enjoyed this and I'm into this little angle between the two of them, even though I kind of felt like Brian Cage could have probably stayed with Taz for just a little bit longer. But anyway, you know, maybe people's attention spans aren't what they used to be sometimes, so they want to keep moving to the next thing. But DJ, what did you think of the Starks promo? I thought, you know, he was pretty good on the mic.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When I first started watching Ricky Starks in NWA, I wasn't as much a fan of his because it's like they couldn't figure out whether they wanted him to be a face or a heel. But when he went to AEW, he became a bright spot there for me because the guy clearly has like an old school understanding of the business, and you know, he's a good looking kid, and you know, he clearly is a heel since he's been in AEW, and I think that's really allowed him to sink into this character. And yeah, I'm really impressed with his charisma, and I think his in-ring stuff's pretty good. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you about, I think it should have been even more garish and over the top. I think that, you know, you should have had the whole pomp and circumstance. Taz should have had his own little bit of pomp and circumstance, like the podium should have risen up and he should have had the towel on his head and stuff like that. You know, they should have gone that extra mile. And then when Hook and Starks come out, like they should have been wearing matching outfits and, you know, sunnies, the whole shebang. Yeah. But as it was, you know, they kind of did what we were describing, but ratcheted down about 20%. And, you know, it was good. It was a good little promo. I was actually enjoying it. I could have actually handled that promo going for an extra 30, 45 seconds, you know. just to kind of let Starks bask in the moment a bit more, because that's the kind of thing that calls for. Cage comes out, interrupts him, kind of shut me up a bit, because I was saying to Carl as that happened about what sort of a charisma vacuum he is, and then he just comes out, brutally fucks up the guy with the drum, snaps the trombone. It looked impactful. It was exactly what was needed. Short, to the point, impactful. Big props to Taz. Taz has been absolutely great since coming to AEW, and it's almost like what they had him doing in TNA, but the creative that they've done for Team Taz is much better than TNA with Aces and Eights. So, Taz has really been shining as well. And so, yeah, all these guys knocked this out of the park. I just could have done with a bit more emphasis on what a huge deal this is being made out to be. I think that would have sold the whole affair a bit more.
Instead of like giving us like a can of Diet Coke, give us a fucking glass of full sugar Coke with a fucking scoop of ice cream in it. That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
Something bigger and more flashy.
Something with more panache.
Absolutely. So before we get to FTR versus Santana and Ortiz, Tanahashi is challenging the winner of Lance Archer and Haku's son, whose name I can't pronounce. I keep forgetting. What do you think of the Forbidden Door and having New Japan talent come in? It's cool in a sense, I think, because, there are fans of Japanese wrestling that will tune in to see this guy. What do you think?
I think it's always good when they bring people over from Japan, because they're all great workers and great athletes. So you can usually always count on some great matches. And I think that if the guy coming over has a bit of a following in America, and he's known for having a bit of charisma and stuff, because they're much more sport focused in Japan, the Japanese industry. So I think that, when they bring over guys with a bit of charisma and obviously that have the work ethic that a lot of the Japanese wrestlers do, that's normally a good thing. But do I think that it's actually going to be as much of a draw as AEW and Dave Meltzer probably think that it is? No, I don't. I think that this is going to be something that hardcore fans like you and I will watch because we're interested in it. I don't think the average person or many of the little kids sitting at home give a shit about Tanahashi coming in to challenge the winner of this match.
Yeah.
So I'm not shitting on it or saying that it's a negative thing. I'm sure the match is going to be great. I'm just saying that I think it's worth mentioning that, put in perspective, while it's a good thing, it's just a little bit extra as far as I'm concerned. It's not, one of the reasons you tune into the show.
Yeah, and I'll say this about the Yuji Nagata match a little while ago. I wanted to specifically watch that match because the last time I saw him wrestle was against Kurt Angle in Japan, and I thought it was a fantastic match. But I couldn't even get through the match. I turned it off after about 10 minutes because I was just like, it's not doing anything for me. So hopefully it's different when this guy comes in. But anyway, let's move on to FTR versus Santana and Ortiz. We wanted, when the match first started, we both said to each other, what we want right here is no bullshit. We just want a fucking good, solid, old school style tag team match that looks like a fight. That's all we want. We don't want any silliness. Please bring us back to the realness of wrestling. That's what I was hoping for. For the most part, we really did get that. So DJ, please, if you will, take it away and let me know, what you thought of this matchup.
Yeah, so first of all, loved the whole matching tracksuits that the Pinnacle guys were wearing when FTR came out. I thought that gave it a real look of like, these guys are a team of wrestlers, they're united, they're looking good, like they carry themselves like men, so that was good. I liked the entrance. Tully Blanchard, looked good. He actually, I'm sure a lot of the new school fans and the, modern fans may not appreciate Tully that much, but Tully actually, for me, adds quite a bit just by being there. It's like adding this kind of prestige to the team, even if he doesn't always cut a lot of promos. And when he does cut a promo, it's good. He cuts it with passion. So good on him. I liked that. Santana and Ortiz are looking great. I think that the time that they spent with the inner circle and all that stuff obviously did wonders in terms of them having an opportunity to learn and get better while being part of a group. Both of them are looking good. They both seem to be in really good shape, and they had a real focused energy about them coming into this match. It looked like they were, really keen to sort of show the fans something and show the people backstage something. And yeah, that's what we got. This was a physical match. I'll point out they did do a few dives here and there, but they were always worked into the match in a context of like, okay, I see an opportunity to take out the guy, so I'm going to launch myself like a missile at him and catch him off guard with it. And that's what one of these dives, if it was real, would be used for, and that's how it was used in this match. So I appreciated that. A lot of physical striking. They started off kind of a little slower, sort of wrestling around, a lot of mat work, which was good. The technique was really good. You could tell that everything was really nice and tight and smooth. So, you could tell that they were really kind of getting into the groove of it. And the match started heating up. You know what? I did say, well, watching the match, that Santana and Ortiz kind of stole it for me, and that's true. I really think that this match for them was a real good showcase of their abilities. They blended a sound knowledge of the basics of wrestling with, brawling and, that kind of, never quitting smash mouth sort of approach. And so I really liked the way that meshed with FTR and their more wrestling-based approach. So for me, yeah, this thing started clicking on all cylinders. I really thought that, honestly, this was one of the best tag matches I've probably seen in a little while. I think this was one of the first tag matches I've seen in a few months now that's really been able to kind of get me invested to this level. So both teams, kudos to them. I didn't really have any issues with the match. I think that there were probably a few things they could have done without. There was maybe one or two too many dives. And I think that there was just a couple of little things that they could have maybe cut out or concised a little bit more, and it would have been even better. But as it was, really good tag match. I don't even have a lot to say about the specific spots in the match. I just thought that, it was a really good showcase for both teams, but especially Santana and Ortiz, because I, as a casual fan, I feel like I'm invested in seeing where they go from here. Right. And also, I hope that Cash Wheeler, gets better soon. He cut his arm open on the ring post, and
I guess that's what led to a bit of an awkward finish. But I guess I'll throw my 2 cents in. The Pinnacle, in comparison to the Elite, this is how a heel stable is supposed to look.
That's right.
They look like they take it seriously. They're not likable as human beings, but they obviously it's a slight take off the Horsemen. And that's why I like this heel stable, and I don't like the Elite, because the Elite do the opposite of what I feel a heel stable is supposed to do. So the presentation's good. One thing with AEW is like they get tag teams together and they keep the tag teams together for a bit of time. You know what I mean? They keep them established, and I expect Santana and Ortiz to stay a team for, the next few years and not get broke. WWE, they put a tag team together, or the tag team comes up from NXT. Within 6 months, they've either been split up or they've been jobbed the fuck out, like the Ascension or whatever. Like they've done that countless times. They do wrong by the tag team division and the respect you should give tag team wrestling. So that's one thing I wanted to put over for AEW. Like, at least they keep these teams together and they establish them. So, at this point, to see these two teams clash, yes, I want to see this match, because the two stables have been feuding for quite some time, and I want to see what happens. And as you said, with the dives, okay, the only thing I wanted to say, they're just so perfect because he saw an opportunity. It was by happenstance. As he's doing the dive, the guy's turning around and taking the bump. It's not the guys just standing there waiting to fucking catch him. That's the difference between this match and the fucking opening match. They all fucking, and we forgot to mention this, fucking Hangman Page was going to be doing a fucking dive to the outside, and you could see in the corner of the camera one of the Young Bucks run around the side of the ring to catch up with Omega and his brother to be there to catch him. And to me, again, that takes me right out of it. But FTR, every time it took place, it just looked like they just so happened to be standing there. Oh shit, I'm about to be fucking hit with a fucking missile. That's how you do dives. That's how the cruiserweights did them in WCW. I don't give a shit what anyone has to say about it. Like the difference between that first match and this match with it is night and day.
You know why? Because they took it seriously. It actually, excuse me, it felt like they were actually in a fight and a conflict and don't like each other.
That's it. And the only other thing I'll say is there's just still some things that some of the guys in AEW need to get out of their system, like that move where whatever it was, he had him in a sliced bread and he was flipped over, and that's what led to him hitting, what was it, like a power bomb with like
so he goes
DDT?
like this. So he grabs the guy, and then his tag team partner throws his legs over, so it's an assisted sliced bread. So they do the assisted sliced bread, but the guy lands on it that's getting flipped over, lands on his feet, lifts up the guy that he's holding, hands him to the other guy and they drop him with a double team power bomb move. Yeah. So why do you need the assisted sliced bread? Except to try to impress everybody and show off and go, oh, look, I can throw my partner's leg up in the air and he'll do a backflip. So what? Why would you waste energy doing that and potentially hurt yourself?
Take it out of the repertoire immediately,
Get that
bro.
Shit
because
out of there.
if the momentum of that sliced bread had something to do with the impact of the move, sure, but it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. So don't do it, because again, it takes us out of the match. It's like the one critique I had was that move was just one thing. I do not like it when there's a setup for a move that is unnecessary to get you to your final destination. You know what I mean?
Like either do the assisted sliced bread or do the fucking assisted powerbomb double team.
Or have him hit a sliced bread, then pick him up, and then do a powerbomb. Like, okay, double whammy.
Yeah, like chain it together. Don't just. I mean, you guys, you all get what we're saying. Let's move on.
Let's move on. But like, it was a shame about the finish. I thought it was awkward, but you could tell something wasn't right. And I would say like, they ad-libbed well enough there to make sure that they finished it soon after. But again, you know, I don't know. Maybe sometimes you can't help the fact that you can't come up with a plan B on the spot. But either way, great tag team
so
match.
Actually, no, we'll zero in on that a little bit just for people that obviously haven't seen the show. So, Kath Wheeler, I believe it was, took a catapult or some kind of bump where he ended up going into the ring post and out of the ring after hitting the post. And on the way down, his arm, I guess, caught the metal that's in between the post and the turnbuckle, and he really got quite a severe gash in his bicep, I think it was.
I think it was his forearm, maybe.
His forearm.
I don't know.
So he's got a really bad gash in his arm, and it's taken him out of the match. And so Harwood finished the match on his own. And you could tell that, it was affecting the originally planned finish of the match. I guess maybe it was going to involve him specifically, he being the one that got injured, or it was going to involve all four of the wrestlers. So they had to quickly think on their feet and improvise. Harwood hit the brainbuster, I think it was, and got the pin. So it was a little bit like, letting the wind out of everyone's sails, a little bit anticlimactic because, it had been building up a good bit of heat up to that point. But, I think that can be overlooked due to the injury.
Absolutely. Moving forward, Britt Baker cuts a promo backstage. Got to get the women's champ on the show, I suppose. I can't remember what she said. Can you enlighten me, DJ?
Well, it was a good promo. It wasn't so much that she she didn't really kind of say anything new. She just sort of sat there, sort of singing her own praises and talking about how great she was. But that's exactly what you want from a heel champion. And, the promo for me, it oozed charisma. I thought that it was, a very charming promo. It made me kind of chuckle a little bit. I love the little side storyline with Britt Baker being like BFFs with Tony Schiavone of all people. It just makes me laugh. Apparently, like I've heard something where it's like they do actually get along quite well, and that's what led to the storyline or whatever. But yeah, it's quite funny. I really like it, and that in itself, that added dynamic added something to the promo as well. Like at the end, Rebel and Britt Baker did the taunt, and Tony did it along with him. So
Yeah.
that was nice. I like this promo. It was inoffensive. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah, and if someone's not going to be performing on the show, get them at least on the show with some sort of backstage interview. That's fine with me. We get an announcement. I don't know if I'm getting the timeline here correctly. We get an announcement at some point. It's either before or after the next match. Whatever, I don't give a shit. The AEW Rampage will be taking place in Chicago, Illinois in 2 weeks at the United.
Oh, no, that was after, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay, well, we're just going to talk about that now because that's where I've got it in my notes.
Okay.
But anyway, I was glad that Tony Schiavone made the announcement and not Tony Khan. I don't want Tony Khan on the show whatsoever. But this is pretty big for them. The United Center's, a famous arena. Chicago Bulls, Chicago. What else is famous in Chicago? CM Punk.
Deep dish pizza.
So everyone's, and it was called what, the First Dance. So obviously this is probably alluding to in 2 weeks' time, we will likely see the debut of CM Punk. Then immediately after this, Alex Marvez is backstage with Sting and Darby Allin.
Actually, let's split that into 2 bits. So I just want to say something about that whole announcement. So the announcement, I think that it was clear when they made this announcement that they knew that everyone was going to, pretty much know or assume that it was CM Punk they were referring to. CM Punk has been recently playing on his Twitter, the Alan Parsons Project, Chicago Bulls entrance theme on his Twitter. This episode of Dynamite in 2 weeks is subtitled The First Dance. The Chicago Bulls related Netflix documentary is called The Last Dance. Punk is from Chicago. This show is in Chicago at the United Airlines Center, I believe it is. The exact same building where CM Punk won the WWE Championship from John Cena after cutting his pipe bomb promo. So we're definitely supposed to, get that they're alluding to CM Punk in this announcement. It got a huge pop. It's definitely a great idea to announce this thing a couple of weeks ahead of time. They haven't absolutely confirmed that it's him necessarily, but they've definitely done a good job of making 2 weeks from now on Dynamite destination viewing. And I that was a good idea. And it definitely got a good reaction. I think it had the reaction that they were probably looking for. So that was intriguing. But then we went backstage, as you alluded to, with Darby Allin flanked by Sting. And that's where, I personally had a little bit of an issue with it. But go ahead.
He gets interviewed. I can't remember everything that was said again because you and I were chatting a little bit about Punk. And then right at the end of the promo, he says, I don't care who it is, even if they think that they're the best in the world. And immediately there was a distaste from you and I. It's just like, just leave some breadcrumbs there. Don't fucking give us the pie. You know what I mean? Just leave the crumbs for us. We know we kind of know what's going to happen, but when you start really just putting it out there for us and saying things like that, I just think they just need to just calm their farm. Don't blow your load too early. What do you think, DJ?
Well, I think that by having Darby Allin specifically reference the announcement that was just made a moment ago in the previous segment and then ending by quoting CM Punk's little moniker of the best in the world, that to me is a step too far of kind of now overdoing it with the alluding to CM Punk and not leaving and trying to suck the mystery out of that, you know? Part of it is it's like they haven't confirmed 100% that that's what's happening. We don't know 100% that's what's happening, but everybody kind of knows that that's what's happening. And that's what's part of the excitement about it. You know, they're just sucking the wind out of it. And also, I don't really want to know who CM Punk is going to be slated to start working with and shit like that. I want to take the time to let it sink in if he shows up that, okay, like Punk's back. How's he look? You know, how's he sound? What does he have to say about all this time away? Who's he going to, you know, specifically mention in his promo or whatever? Like, I just feel like I didn't need to hear that from Darby Allin in this promo. That would have been, you know, perhaps if you'd made that announcement and then you'd saved the Darby Allin promo for next week or something like that, because by next week, the anticipation is going to be that much more and you can add a little reference into it next week. But,
Yeah.
you know, alluding to it so heavily back to back in two segments like that, that really sort of, you know, just was like beating a dead horse for me and kind of ruined a little bit of the mysticism that the previous segment was trying to build up.
Yep. Okay, moving forward. Lance Archer, the Murder Hawk monster. I think he should be called the Murder Hawk. Against Hikuleo. Fuck, man. I'm not going to get this. Say it, DJ.
It's Hikuleo, isn't it?
Hikuleo. What? Okay, look. King Haku's.
Hang on. No. We'll get this. We'll get this. I'm going to quickly look this up.
Hikuleo.
Let me just
look. Essentially, everyone out there, we you know, DJ's a little bit knows a little bit about him, has seen a little bit of him, but I have not before this.
It is Hikuleo.
Hikuleo.
Yeah,
okay,
that's right.
Hikuleo, and we get the nice pop of his dad coming out with him. That's what we want to see. We love that shit. We were confused as to why Jake didn't come out with Lance. I kind of feel like the commentators should fill us in there. You know, where's Jake? Because I think it would have been interesting to see, like, if Haku's gonna fucking get something in on Archer, it would have been kind of funny to see Jake try to get something on Hikuleo or whatever, and it like not work. Like, I think that could have been like funny.
Yeah,
how fucking big that guy is. But how it makes sense that Haku could fucking lock in the Tongan death grip on Lance Archer and it still have an effect after all these years, despite him being an older man. I thought the match was a little clunky. You know, they're two big fucking guys, so, you know, it's not going to be this classic contest, but I liked it for what it was. It got Lance Archer over because obviously he was starting to become the guy that couldn't win the big one with the TNT title opportunities in the past. So now he's got that IWGP US Championship. You know, that's great for him, and I'm glad that he got the win here because, you know, he needs to keep being built up. And the only other thing I wanted to say about it was I liked that as he was getting that 3 count, King Haku kind of dived in, even though it wasn't gonna have an effect. Of course, you're gonna, you know, he's gonna panic a little bit, like, no, damn it, this is my son's biggest opportunity. I want to help, and so I enjoyed that. I thought that was interesting bit of psychology. What did you think, bro?
Yeah, so obviously Hikuleo is the 6'8" former basketball player, son of Haku /Meng/King Haku, considered one of the toughest men in the history of the business. You know, he's a young kid, good-looking kid. Like, he's a big kid, but you could see that he still looked a little bit awkward at certain points in the ring, even though, like, I know he's a 5-year veteran and all that. But the match to me really felt like it was much more in line with a Japanese style match in terms of kind of a bit slower moving, hit a couple of big moves, everybody cheers, and then it goes into being slow again and they don't really do anything, and then they hit another. They kind of did that for sort of a lot of the match. And then it kind of heated up a bit more in the second half when the strikes became more frequent. And this was just, the epitome of two big bulls going at it. I think that there were some things that looked a little bit sort of two left feet and looked a little bit clunky here and there. That's just something that's going to come with experience for Hikuleo. I think that he still looked pretty good in the match against Lance Archer, but it definitely, he's not at the level he needs to be to kind of win the belt, certainly, yet. So it was the right call having Lance Archer win this one, and he looked good in the match. And it was a little slow and clunky, as you said, but I think that given the size of the two competitors, a little bit of that can be expected. And as you said, really nice touch with King Haku on the outside, hit the midsection kick, and then the Tongan death grip on Lance Archer and shoved him pretty hard into the barricade. So yeah, that was a nice little moment. Got a huge pop from the crowd. And, I also popped for him jumping into the ring at 2.5 just to try to break up the pin. There was still like 2 feet between him and the pin. And he jumped in at like 2 3/4 was when he jumped up.
Yeah.
So that was funny. This was a good match. I don't think that this Hikuleo guy is quite, ready to be full-time every week on Dynamite yet. I think he needs a bit more time. But he did okay given the circumstances. And this was a pretty good match. And two big bulls going at it.
Nice, bro. Okay, comes to the next segment. My most hated fucking performer in wrestling today, Cody Rhodes, is sitting backstage. He starts talking, he gets asked a question and he says, with everything going on in the world right now, hearing that sentence come out of his mouth, it made me immediately want to say, shut the fuck up. But I didn't have to do that because Malachi Black came fucking running in with his kick to the fucking head. And man, we both popped for that. I'd love the fuck out of that. Obviously, then Cody starts fucking fighting back. The crowd get a bit negative actually on Cody fighting back. They're really behind this Malachi Black guy. And, the brawl ends up on the stage and he gets knocked the fuck out. And then, I can't remember the name of the masked wrestler, but he gets fucking wiped out too. So I think they made Black look awesome here. I just really, for the love of God, hope that this doesn't lead to Cody getting the win next week because that will just fucking undo a whole heap. So I think Black should next week really cement himself by getting a fucking strong win over Cody Rhodes. What did you think, DJ?
Well, on that last point there, I definitely agree. Next week, it needs to be Black Mass 1, 2, 3. End of story. There is no other way to finish that match, and that's where we need to go. But as far as the segment, Cody comes out. He's wearing his annoying white suit and glittery shoes, and the first thing he says is, with everything going on in the world, as if we fucking... I'm actually starting to think now that he is deliberately doing this on purpose a bit.
I really hope so, man. I really hope so.
Try to get heat. Yeah. Because, just the way that he said it and stuff like that, if he's not doing that deliberately to try to get heel heat, then he's got no self-awareness.
Yeah.
Because he's like, with everything going on in the world right now, no one's been sitting here waiting to hear you weigh in on everything. So he says, with everything going on in the world, and boom, immediately a foot comes into the camera view, old school Crash TV style. I love it when things happen in wrestling that I don't expect. That is what I want. I want to be, when stuff happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Camera zooms out. Boom, it's Malachi Black. He's just now Black Mass. Fucking the crowd pops huge for it, showing you that, he's already over pretty good with the fans. They start brawling. They make Cody immediately, once he gets control of the brawl, drags Malachi Black out to the stage because he obviously can't bear not to be seen by all the fans. So he drags him out to the stage area and then does the gold dust back bump into an uppercut.
That was horrible.
Malachi Black's chin on the wooden stage. Why would you willingly take a back bump just to do an uppercut like that? Why wouldn't you just do an uppercut from standing or, any other kind of kick? So Malachi Black eventually fucking knocks the piss out of him. Security comes down. Malachi ends up knocking the piss out of some other like masked wrestler that comes down, as you said. Really good way to get me invested in Malachi Black, and I really hope to see Cody Rhodes get his ass kicked. And if they are turning Cody full-fledged heel, I say that's the best thing for him, because I don't think many people can stomach him as a babyface.
No, I don't
yeah.
care how many fucking focus groups he has. He just comes across incredibly tone deaf to me. And again, just like Omega and the Young Bucks, the fourth VP is one of the people that I don't want to watch on this show, and is what is stopping me from really jumping in and being a big time fan, or being someone that wants to watch every single week, every single show. Okay, moving forward. There's a nice little promo from Miro, very intense promo, talking about, being the champion and his challenges have dried up. Then he talks about, fighting Lee Johnson next week. That's nice. We're building to next week as well as the show's going on. We're not ripping up scripts, at 4 p.m. on the day. So we're building up to this match. Obviously, he's probably going to go over. It will be ridiculous for him to lose at this stage, because I don't even know what Lee Johnson looks like at this stage. I can't even remember. I did like the moment where he spoke about his wife being double jointed. Fantastic, bro. Why not brag about that? I would.
Yeah. Why not? You should, especially if you're a heel. You should be trying to piss off all the guys in the crowd that, saying like, because he's like, everyone knows who his wife is, and now he's saying not only does she look like that, she's great in the sack as well. Brilliant way to get heel heat. Overall, it was a great promo. Finally, it looks like they've started to right the Titanic that was Miro's initial debut and first couple of months in the company. It was just shocking. All that best man fucking bullshit. This Kip's like, who fucking cares? Nobody cared. Coming out on his debut, for his debut promo, and he's cutting this intense promo about how Vince McMahon can take that brass ring and shove it up his ass, but he's wearing a fucking pink Minnie Mouse t-shirt and fucking boat shoes and khaki pants.
Yeah.
And he's got his hair dyed like Slim Shady.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? I'm glad that we can erase that now, and he's the intense,
go back to Hollywood,
badass that he should be.
Yeah. So now this promo here, he was the badass that he should be. That's what we want. Way too soon for Miro to lose this title. Miro should still be holding this title this time next year. They should give him a really long reign to establish that TNT title, and also really build Miro up as well.
Yep, I wouldn't be offended if he kept it until the next Double or Nothing. Okay, moving forward, Christian and the Jurassic Express against the Hardy Family Office. I'm going to let you take it away, but before I do, need to make it incredibly clear that I fucking hate Jungle Boy's entrance. I hate when they cut to the crowd and they're singing along. I muted it. And, I was still talking to you on Discord whilst I was muting the actual show, which meant I had muted you as well. So I didn't know what you were saying, but I was just ranting the whole time. I hate this. It's painful to watch. Don't know why. I just can't get into it. But anyway, aside from that, DJ, what did you think of this matchup?
Yeah. Look, I've never really been a huge fan of the Jurassic Express. It's not so much that I don't really like the guys. I do think Jungle Boy's a good talent. Especially as a smaller type, quick wrestler that the kids can really get behind and stuff like that, and that girls will like, and teenage girls will like him and stuff like that. So I think he's marketable in that respect, and he's not bad in the ring. He'll get better with time and experience. But I definitely think that he should be solo. The Jurassic Express thing is holding him back. It always just feels every time they come out like it's Jungle Boy plus the rest of the Jurassic Express. I also think that Luchasaurus needs to fucking ditch the Dorothy the Dinosaur cosplay and fucking become a big fucking monster like a guy like that should be. I hate seeing him throw these flimsy fucking kicks and these crappy like strikes that look like he's in a no contact karate tournament and shit, some shit. And he's fucking like, he is being overshadowed by Jungle Boy, even though he's the one that's 7 foot tall and fucking looks like he could be a monster wearing his stupid little mask, and just he's being overshadowed by Jungle Boy. He should be on his own as well, and he needs a different gimmick. Marko Stunt, I just think that it's a fucking stupid character, and like I just don't see why this kid is special enough to warrant being in that position. Like, if you want a person that's gimmick is to just be really small and look like an 11-year-old, I'm sure you could find a dwarf that's actually got some charisma and stuff like that to play a role like that. I just don't understand it. So that's what I got to say about that. The Hardy family office thing, or if that's what it was called, I'm really digging that. I love Matt Hardy's obnoxious businessman gimmick, and I love the fact that he's been going around recruiting these guys, and the only people, obviously, that would accept to agree to giving Matt Hardy like 15% of their pay would be the douchiest wrestlers in the locker room that would think that Matt can do something for him. So that really worked for me. I do feel like they're building to a Christian versus Matt Hardy one-on-one match, building off of their history together in the TLC. Possibly we may even see a TLC type match with the two teams. We don't know. But I definitely want to see them two one-on-one at this stage of their careers, hopefully tear the house down. And this went a little bit of the way towards building that. Christian didn't do very much in the match. He was obviously teamed with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. He came in, did a little bit of stuff at the beginning. It all looked really good, really smooth. Tagged back out, and then he basically came back in to hit the frog splash and get the pin. So I guess he was having a bit of a rest. He is a bit older now, so, you know, like, I have already seen him have some good matches since he's been back, but, you know, he probably can't go full tilt like he used to, so he kind of hung back. But that was fine. Everything that he did was good. You know, nothing else really to say about the match. I think that the guys in the Hardy family office, I'm suddenly more interested in them than I was before they were with Matt Hardy, so that's a good thing. But I still don't quite know where that whole thing is going to go yet. So the jury's still out.
Fair enough, bro. And yeah, as I said earlier, I felt like just take 5 minutes off that opening match. You know, that wasn't necessary. Stick it into this one because it just seemed like it went really quickly. Christian looked fantastic. He looks the exact same that he did when he was still actively wrestling in the WWE. Everything he did, he's such a pro. You can just see the difference between him and some of the other guys on the roster. So, like, I hope after this kind of thing is done with Matt, and it does, you know, and maybe with a few matches between the two of them, you know, let's fucking get as much out of it as possible. But after that, I really want to see Christian do some important things and cut some important promos and be in like the upper tier, you know, contending for the championship kind of thing, because, you know, that's what his position, you know, initially in AEW should be about, is getting him back up in that spot. And then as time wears on, then have him be the guy that kind of works with the younger guys and helps put them over. But for the time being, that's where I'd like to see his trajectory go. So yeah, this was fine. It did what it needed to continue the story. So I wasn't offended by it. It just, and again, Luchasaurus. Yeah, I agree with you. He's such a fucking big guy and he's in this goofy character that it's just not for me. Like, if you're going to be a big masked man, I want to see someone like Kane. I don't, you know, if Kane was like Luchasaurus back when he came in, it wouldn't have lasted very long as far as I'm concerned. And as I said to you before, when it comes to Jungle Boy, I know a lot of people have said, I think Jungle Boy could be, you know, he's the future of the business. He's this and that. He's going to be a future world champion. I don't want to see that. He's too small. Bring in a weight division in AEW. I'm sorry. I know it's nice to say it doesn't matter how big you are and say, well, fucking Rey Mysterio. Enough with that shit. Rey Mysterio is a one-of-a-kind fucking performer, okay? And I think that's just apples and oranges when you want to compare any small person to Rey Mysterio. He is in a league of his own. So I don't think some of these smaller guys should ever be a world champion as far as I'm concerned. You put them against like Eddie Guerrero fucking towers over them. You know what I mean? That's exponentially smaller. And, that's something that I used to say about NXT when I would see fucking Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. I remember I fell asleep on the couch once and the network was just playing in the background, and I opened my eyes and there was this match between the two of them. And I was like, my God, they're fucking small. I couldn't believe it. So I just feel like, when it comes to these smaller guys, I don't buy it. And I don't think I ever will. That's just my personal opinion. So the second last match of the show, I kind of see a little bit of a theme here, and I feel like the ladies of AEW aren't really getting given the time that I guess they deserve to really build this division. And I hope with the addition of this Rampage show that we start seeing more angles that mean something take place, so that I can actually get invested in who these people are and learn a bit more about them. We have Thunder Rosa taking on Julia Hart, and I remember with the Blood and Guts episode, this was when Julia Hart debuted and she got squashed by Britt Baker, which was fine. But at the same time, I kind of feel like this is all they could give him, was like a squash match where we knew who was going to win the match. So yes, they're celebrating that Thunder Rosa is now finally signed to a full-time AEW contract. The match was fine. Little bit awkward here and there. I think Thunder Rosa fucked up a couple of things, especially that drop kick in the corner. It looked like it really hurt Julia. She's still obviously a bit green. But obviously at the network, we're big fans of her. We think she's got something, she's got a bit of spunk about her, and she's with the Varsity Blondes, which, we're big fans of those two as well. So, it was what it was. It was a squash match. We knew who was going to win. DJ, what did you think of the ladies match?
Yeah, well, huge fan of Thunder Rosa. Obviously, if you check out our interview with Tim Storm, you'll know that I'm a massive NWA fan, and that's where I first saw Thunder Rosa, and I've always appreciated her work. And, it's been no exception whenever she's been in AEW. Julia Hart, as you said, she's with the Varsity Blondes. We're big fans of all three of them. They're trying to push this kind of wholesome, sort of sweet girl next door type thing with Julia Hart. And they're kind of, I think it's almost like, they're kind of trying to push her as this cute little, nice little thing who just is also a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I think that works for her. She has a nice smile. She has some charisma about her. But she was too green to be put in this situation. I feel like this was a bit too much for her at this point in where she is with her in-ring work. And I felt like she looked a little lost out there. And I don't really think that it did many favors for Thunder Rosa either. Also, that drop kick in the corner really fucking would have hurt. All credit to Julia Hart, because I know what it's like to cop a really hard hit during a match, and it's not pleasant. You could see the bruise in the back of her thigh when Thunder Rosa hooked the leg for the pin, and the camera got a shot of it, and you could see that it was already starting to turn black and blue. So that wasn't really a good look either, to be honest, because there were several spots in the match where things looked a little clunky. And look, I just don't know if this was, I just think that this didn't jive that well. I don't think Julia Hart was ready for that. And maybe Thunder Rosa's not yet at the point where she can carry someone at that level. So maybe not the best matchup, but still a fan of both ladies, though.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like with the AEW women's division, they need a couple more names in there. They're bringing in all these guys, and that's great. But, if you think about it, who we got? We got, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa, what's the name? Hikaru Shida.
Hikaru Shida, yep.
Yeah, we got her.
Jade Cargill.
Yeah, she's on the bench though right now, isn't she? Isn't she injured?
If they brought Victoria in, bro.
They need like 3 other girls. Like bring in Ruby Riot. She's a bit
Yeah.
younger. She can go. She's good. Bring in like another, maybe like more of a veteran type name, like a Victoria. Why not? Maybe I don't know. Maybe she's kind of trying to get out of wrestling at this point, but maybe like a veteran kind of a gal that you could bring in. Maybe Santana Garrett, bro. She's not in WWE anymore. I think she's very marketable. I think she's got that all-American kind of look about her. She's been in the business now for quite some time. Bring her in. I think she can turn some heads and draw some ratings. She's gorgeous and she's actually pretty good in the ring. I think
I also think somebody like a Sarah Del Rey could be a big asset to AEW. She was the lead female trainer at the Performance Center for a while. She's obviously a great worker, not as much of a known star, but she's definitely someone that you could put in there to have great matches. And then she can also teach and train the other girls to help get them up to speed in the ring as well. And as far as some name value for the women's division, imagine if they brought in like a Mickie James or,
treat her with the respect she deserves, not just being an afterthought in the background all the fucking time.
Bring in a Mickie James, fucking look for some of the, female talents over the years that have drawn and that can work a little bit. Bring them in.
Agreed.
They do that a lot with men, like with the male free agents in the business, but not as much with the women. Their women are all largely unknowns and, a lot of people from the independent circuit. So
yeah, like bring in Serena Deeb. She's great. Anyway, okay, let's move on from there. Moxley cuts a promo backstage. Maybe he wrestled on Dark or Elevation earlier in the day, but I was wondering, why are you backstage without a shirt on? You're not even going to be wrestling, but maybe he already did something earlier. Cuts a promo talking shit to Tanahashi, and talking about sending contracts to NJPW and how he never got to have any of the matches that he wanted to have. Whatever it was, I'm not aware of his situation when he was the US champion and why he's ended up having to drop it to Lance. But anyway, he's on the show. Cool. You got to put all your names on the show if you've got him there. Sting was on the show, didn't say anything, just stood there. I feel bad for Sting having to put that paint on just for that and to just wash it off. What did you think of the Moxley promo? And do you care too much about this whole thing with him and Tanahashi?
Well, it's not so much that I don't really have a lot of interest in it, but I felt like the promo that he cut did do some good in building a little bit of interest, because I liked the whole idea. I liked what he was saying about, it's funny how you can just get across here for a match. Meanwhile, I've been denied passage to Japan. It makes me look weaker than the Japanese people challenging me. My contracts are going unsigned and stuff like that. I really liked that he kind of discussed it from a prize fighting point of view. The bottle of alcohol and the kind of drunkenness that he was trying to get across was a little bit contrived for me. I just thought that it was a little try-hardy. You don't need it. Just stand there and be intense, You don't have to do these things like that to show off how badass you are. I thought it was a decent little promo, but at the same time, it's just more of a wait and see thing. It's just kind of there for me. It's not like I was,
I guess
it was all right.
I guess they hadn't planned ahead about where he was going after the Omega and Young Bucks feud. It's kind of like that's over, and now he's kind of in this weird waiting period, waiting for the next angle that he can be a part of. So, let's just maybe bring over someone from Japan to keep him busy until then, there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay, DJ, time to get to the main event. The reason why I wanted to watch this show, I was excited. I've seen the dark side of the ring. I've watched a whole bunch of kind of some CZW stuff. I interviewed Matt Tremont, who, has tagged with Nick Gage quite a lot over the years. Nick Gage is coming in. He is the, the second labor of Jericho. Jericho,
that's right. Second labor of Jericho.
Yeah, he gets to wrestle MJF. I wish, if you can explain it for me, I'd love that. But I wish someone could explain to me why Jericho has to go through these things to get a match with him. Like, why can't it just be signed on the dotted line that these two are going to fight? Why does he have to go through this whole rigmarole to get there?
Look, well, I mean, but this would be an opportunity, a good time for Monet to be here. I think it might have something to do with like one of the stipulations of a previous match between the two factions, something to do with that. I'm not entirely sure, but
I don't know, man. But
someone in the comments of this video will illuminate us on it. But
I'm sure.
But yeah, for whatever reason, he has to go through these 5 different labors to get his opportunity at MJF, and so this match with Nick Gage is the second of those 5 labors. The first one being the match against Shawn Spears the previous week.
Yeah, and I know they kind of already did this with Cody and MJF, and I think Cody had to do 3 things, and
this is better.
One of them was tried to take like 10 shots of a cane to the back, which is like, you're not Tommy Dreamer, okay, Cody?
Yeah, you're not. You don't have that kind of heat.
No,
that's gonna work.
No, and also the ridiculous cage match with the fucking cage that was nearly at the fucking roof was ridiculous. But anyway, enough of that shit. I just want to know what the pretense is to all this and why Jericho can't just have a match with him. But either way, it doesn't matter because I'm into it. I like it because I wasn't that chuffed with the Shawn Spears thing because it is what it is. Like, he's in MJF's crew. Cool. That makes sense. But as soon as I found out it was going to be Nick Gage as the second one, I'm like, well, what the fuck are they going to do for the next few? And we'll get to the third one once we get through this match. But I'm excited, man. Like, what's going to be number 4? What's going to be number 5? Fuck, bro. Let's wait and see. Hopefully they don't let us down here. But Jericho and Nick Gage did not let us down, DJ. Please take the floor. How did you feel about this match? Being somebody that going into the contest, you were kind of feeling negative about Nick Gage, kind of feeling like this kind of wrestling shouldn't be on this show. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'll say at the outset, it's not that I'm not a fan of deathmatch wrestling. I am a fan of deathmatch wrestling as long as everyone involved had proper training and all of that stuff, and there's medical facilities and crap like that put in place for their safety. I don't like a lot of the deathmatch style wrestling that we saw in the Nick Gage Dark Side of the Ring, where it just really did come across like they just didn't give a shit about their own safety, and it was all about who could just do the dumbest shit to their bodies. So I don't like that stuff. I do think that deathmatch wrestling has a place because it is an adrenaline rush, and if the guys involved can actually wrestle and they're telling a story, then that's great. I'm into it. So, but then after talking to Carl, and because I did watch the Dark Side of the Ring, it did soften my opinion of Nick Gage.
Because you said you didn't want to watch it, didn't you? And I said, no, give it a chance. Like, this is a story that you might like get into.
Well, I didn't have a lot of respect for Nick Gage after the bank robbery thing, and I just thought, that just gives a bad name to wrestling. Saw the Dark Side of the Ring thing, kind of saw the circumstances around that and a lot of other things, and it made me think, wow, this guy's an interesting guy. And the whole thing with David Arquette and, him kind of becoming this underground, like, sort of having a cult following within the industry on this, like, fringe, movement, like the fringe branch of professional wrestling, and Absolutely. That he's there. Obviously, the Dark Side of the Ring is a popular show. Jericho is the narrator of it. Maybe that's how they got into contact, or Jericho became interested in the idea. Either way, Nick Gage is sort of on kind of a redemption story. He's gotten out of prison. He's turned himself around. He's in great shape, and he's still doing his thing, and he's one of the most popular deathmatch wrestlers in the world. His Dark Side of the Ring episode then airs. That brings us to here. I'm still thinking really that this isn't really the kind of person that deserves to be on this kind of a platform. I know that he's kind of an attraction, that he's kind of got some name value at the moment, but and then you kind of discussed it with me and said, well, it's just kind of like a modern day New Jack, He's probably not really a bad person. It's just that he's got that element of danger to him and stuff like that. So that kind of came around to thinking of it that way. And
like, I said to you, like, if New Jack was still alive and was 10 years younger and it had all these infamous things. I guarantee you they probably would have booked New Jack to wrestle Chris Jericho. I'm sure New Jack would have wanted that fucking payday. So I mean,
Yeah. So,
but continue.
so I started coming around to it on that basis, and it certainly was interesting that we were going to see this death match, like CZW, IWA Mid South type wrestler on such a big stage, and no less against a wrestler that's a world famous wrestler, WWE champion, has wrestled all the biggest names, and what a career, and he's one of the biggest stars in AEW as well, and helped launch that entire company. And now he's going to go in the ring and wrestle against a guy who's robbed a bank, who's accidentally cut David Arquette open with a light tube in a wrestling match, and who's cut himself open and who's died for 8 minutes as a result of blood loss during one of these death matches. So I thought, wow, that's a real dichotomy, and I really like that contrast that created of this much more mainstream, traditional, student of the game type professional wrestler as Chris Jericho, world famous top level wrestler. And now he's gone up against this guy who has probably never performed in front of more than 3,500 people, in his career. And now he's going into an arena where there's 15, 16,000. It's on national TV, and it's against Chris Jericho. The biggest match of this person's career, the biggest moment of his career. Wow. And I really think that Nick Gage rose to the occasion. It did kind of look a lot like when a WWE wrestler takes a celebrity through a match, and you can see them kind of calling it and controlling the pace, and some things look a little wonky and in terms of the post-ups and everything. That did happen. You can tell that Nick Gage, as far as his in-ring work, is not on the same level as a Jericho. That's not what draws money for him. What draws money for him is the deathmatch stuff. But he held his own in there. They did some wrestling. Everything was done safely and nicely. And, there was this bizarre sense of surrealism that was kind of hanging over the match, because you were like, it's kind of, you're in awe a bit of actually seeing Nick Gage in this setting against Chris Jericho, and they're having a match. They brought the light tubes out earlier on, but didn't use them for a while. They let them just sit there, let the crowd keep looking at them while they went and did some other stuff. Really nice backbreaker by Nick Gage. Really nice. I believe it was like a Falcon Arrow type move by Jericho. Yeah. There was a couple of really nice moves in there. Gage brought out the pizza cutter. At the beginning, he sliced Jericho's arm with it. It clearly didn't really cut him. And then Jericho held his arm, and the camera cut back to Gage. And then when the camera cut back to Jericho, he had a small razor blade size cut on his bicep. So clearly he bladed his own arm, and it was very obvious. Nick Gage did use the patented pizza cutter on Jericho's forehead, but the pizza cutter that he used was possibly gimmicked. And you could tell that he really made an effort to make sure that pizza cutter didn't burr its way in too deep into the skin. It barely touched Jericho at all. And so you could see that Nick Gage was definitely trying his best to do everything safely and be a real professional and make the most of this opportunity. And he did that. They bring out the light tubes. Gage breaks one of them, uses the end of it to kind of stab Jericho in the eye. Finally, we see, what is it? So Nick Gage gets a crew member at ringside to help him look under the ring, and I was wondering kind of what are they doing? Why is he asking this guy to look under the ring? He gets back in the ring, and the crew member helps him slide a glass pane into the ring, which fans of Brand Warfare will be familiar with in our hardcore matches on that show, those shows. But he brings a plane of glass into the ring, and it's there. They set it up in between two chairs. Gage ends up on the top rope. Jericho ends up fighting with him on there. I remember actually saying, "Oh, he's not going to Hurricanrana him off there." Like, no, it's going to be a powerbomb.
There's no
But
way.
no, Jericho did actually manage, because I thought that the pane of glass was actually set up quite close. And like, man, how would Jericho Hurricanrana, him without, going through it himself? So, but he ends up doing it, pulls it off perfectly. Jericho didn't even touch the pane of glass, and Nick Gage took one of the best front flip bumps I've seen in a long time, just perfectly symmetrical and right in the bang on in the center of the pane of glass. It explodes. It's a big pop. It's probably the highlight of the match. It instantly made Nick Gage into a bankable star that he's going to be able to draw off of this match for a while. Now glass is covering the ring. Jericho ends up taking a code breaker was reversed. Jericho was thrown from in the air and landed back first on all the glass. That hurts. Awesome. You could see the bits of glass in his skin, and that had to be painful. Jericho takes a couple of light tubes across the head. They filled it with talcum powder. It made for a nice visual. And eventually, though, Jericho would get the upper hand, hit Nick Gage with some tubes, and hit the Judas effect for the win. Great match. I thought that this was better than it had any right to be. I definitely, at the beginning, you could tell that Nick Gage was a bit uncomfortable, and maybe even Jericho was as well. And I was kind of beginning to question, like, oh, was this actually a bad idea? Is he actually going to rise to it? But then it's almost interesting, just like John Moxley said in Dark Side of the Ring, as the match went on, it did seem like Nick Gage really started to feel more comfortable and feel like, I think after he took a couple of hits and maybe did a couple of things and finally started to settle in, then you could really see that they started to click and that they were really kind of getting into the story that they were telling. And this was really good. Obviously, Gage would have had no business winning. I'm glad that it was a clean win for Jericho. I hope that they don't overdo it with trying to make Jericho act like he's this hardcore wrestler or anything now. Just because he's done this, that doesn't mean he's like this hardcore legend. I don't care what anyone says, because I've already heard some people on Twitter talking about that. Like, this was a really good performance and a great hardcore match, but like, to me, someone like Edge is more of a hardcore wrestler than Jericho is. Like, but yeah, this turned out great. And obviously at the end of the match, MJF, who'd been down at commentary, sidebar actually, MJF on commentary did a great job of kind of putting Nick Gage over and making him look like a dangerous, threatening, like, this guy, wrestling aside, this guy's dangerous, and he's hard to control, but I'm paying him. And so MJF's kind of putting that idea over to sell this whole labor storyline. He did good on commentary. After Jericho managed to get the win,
I think we'll stop you right there, DJ.
Yeah, you want to be the one to.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll break it up. All right. Go ahead. I want to hear what you thought about this match. That went on for a while.
It went on for a while. That's okay. You leave me with very little to add, but that's okay. It was so interesting seeing Jericho being forced into this world that he would never ever go into. And as far as Nick Gage is concerned, he has had not only the biggest match of his career here, but the biggest week of his career. The Matt Cardona Gage match at GCW, that got some headlines, that got some press. So, he must be pretty fucking happy right now. He could probably bump up his rate a little bit now, so he'll make some money in the future. And it'll be great to have Nick Gage, be someone that can just pop in every now and then if they need something like this, as long as he doesn't lose every single time. But I thought, I always thought that this was someone that needed to be brought in because of the dark side of the ring. So I was happy for him. And I see a lot of negativity in comment sections of wrestling websites about people saying, "Oh, he should never have been there. He's a criminal, blah, blah, blah." Like, fucking pull the dick out of your ass.
I feel like he deserves, some sympathy. I don't feel like, when I watched The Dark Side of the Ring, I didn't feel like this guy's just a fucking reckless criminal.
Yeah, like he's had
I feel
hard
like
times, and
he's the guy that's made some fucking stupid decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't think that defines who he is for the rest of his life.
No, and it's like, people can make bad decisions. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them human. When you put into a corner, these are the things that are going to fucking happen. Anyway, so I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, like, how is this going to work out? It worked out beautifully as far as I'm concerned. It was a little kind of awkward-ish at the beginning, but once they found their footing, I think that this was like a perfect labor of Jericho. And, that Hurricane Runner through the glass pane, as you said, it was so flush. I had no idea. I thought he was going to powerbomb him through it, but instead it was the Hurricane Runner, and it just landed perfectly. I love the pile driver. I love that Nick Gage looked like he was a threat here. He could possibly win, but of course, Jericho looking like this fucking warrior at the end of the day. He managed to get through this fucking test. He managed to beat a fucking deathmatch legend at his own game. So props to Nick Gage for doing business, taking that paycheck and making Jericho look good. So overall, this fulfilled my expectations. I don't think it exceeded it. It fulfilled them, because I kind of had a more of a feeling that this was going to be good. This was going to be interesting, and it was. And I hope that this garners them their biggest ratings to date, because as I said earlier, I really feel like this was the best show I've seen of AEW.
This deserves positive attention. Like this was a win for AEW. I'm giving them props. I enjoyed this show. Several things on this show have made me be interested in possibly watching the show again with you next week, Carl.
Well, I think I will.
Yeah,
too.
Including the very next thing that occurred, which I'm going to let you lead us into, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So obviously the match is over. Jericho's won, and we're going to find out the next thing. And this is going to be something that's going to bring people back next week, because they're going to want to see this match. They know Jericho's going to get to the fifth one, because they know he's going to get to the MJF match eventually. So now everyone's going to be excited, not only for the match and what happens, but they're going to be excited to find out what the fourth thing is. And then the following week with the fifth thing. So, okay, MJF cuts a promo, alludes to a promo that they had face-to-face many months prior. And the name Juventud Guerrera gets brought up. MJF says in that promo that he doesn't know who the hell is Hoovy, whatever. Jericho tells him to Google it. MJF now says, I did Google it. I kind of feel like it's stupid. MJF would know who Juventud Guerrera is. He's not that young.
I think that's I thought that was funny. I think that was just
stupid. Yeah, maybe it was. But anyway, yes, Juventud Guerrera gets announced as the next opponent for next week for Jericho. So, yes, I want to tune in to see what happens. What did you think about Hoovy? And I just hope he can still go.
I think that this whole storyline is a good idea. It has made me get a bit more interested in Jericho, because not really been a fan of his in the last several years, and some of the shit that he says outside of wrestling as well. But all that aside, this has made me interested in seeing what he's going to do. I hope it's going to be a good match next week. I'm interested in seeing how Hoovy looks. I like the idea of MJF bringing Hoovy in. It also kind of builds MJF's character a bit by having him be the mastermind of these labors and stuff like that. So everything here worked out, really well. And I noticed that they didn't even show a picture of Hoovy. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he looks like next week on Dynamite.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in years, bro. But as far as these other labors, I wouldn't be offended if the fourth one was Lance Storm, because it's somebody that knows Jericho very well. Maybe Lance Storm's happy to take a payday to try and ruin this thing for Jericho. And I wouldn't mind if the fifth one was a submission match with Ken Shamrock. Based off,
I'd like that as well. Before we actually wrap up, there's something that we actually missed, bro.
Right, what's that,
from
bro?
earlier. And what that was the promo backstage where Chavo and
Oh yeah, no, I did have it written down
Andrade
as well.
walked up.
I did have that.
Yeah,
written
so
down.
we should probably touch on that as well.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. But yeah, just to finish that point, like Shamrock and Jericho were having a feud before Shamrock left the WWF, and the day of that pay per view where they were supposed to wrestle, Jericho wrestled X-Pac instead because Shamrock had left the company. But anyway, I think that would be a cool match to see take place. But yes, so Marvez is backstage to interview the Death Triangle. Park is there. He says that someone cancelled their car. In comes Chavo and Andrade. They said that they are arriving thanks to them ordering them a limo. And he said to Park to order better rides for his guys or someone will do it for him. Why are they still on the way to the show, bro? Because they weren't going to wrestle.
Started airing, yeah.
They
and
weren't,
also,
they
like,
booked.
if your your car service got cancelled. Oh no, I'll just call an Uber. Problem solved.
That's
you
it.
know. And why wouldn't Puck know what a limo is? You know, like it just felt like pointless. You know, that little bit. That's why I made sure that we didn't forget about it, because that little bit backstage, if anything, that made me want to see all the people involved less. That actually like made me less interested in the people involved.
Yeah,
So,
so we like the show, bro. But then there's something nonsensical that happens. Why would they be? Why would they be concerned about them making it to the arena if they're not even booked on the fucking show?
Can you see the difference? It's funny that MJF would say that he Googled Juventud and referenced that little throwaway line from years ago, because it's still in the context of like their feud and stuff like that, and it actually did happen. So that's actually funny. It's called something that's organically funny, but it's not funny, you know, the little attempt at comedy that they were doing back there, and it makes no sense. And again, it makes wrestling look stupid. Why would any of those people in that segment talk like that?
Yeah, exactly. So that was just, I'm glad we brought it up because it was nonsensical. And just those are the small things that they need to tidy up. But before we put a bow on this review, DJ, I think they improved production quite a lot. There was only like once or twice, as opposed to like 8 or 10 times where the camera like missed something that was important. So finally, they're improving on that. They're making sure that they're shooting the right thing at the right time. That was one of my biggest problems with AEW, was that it was jarring on me and viewing the show because they weren't shooting things properly, and it came across bush league. So that was just one thing I wanted to bring up before we finish.
Yeah. The production has improved from where it was. There wasn't as many gaps and stuff like that. But, you know, there were still a few things where it was like, God, why would you shoot it that way? You know, sometimes it's like, you know, for everything negative that you can say about WWE and Kevin Dunn and all that stuff, one thing you can't say is that the cameras miss stuff in WWE. They never miss stuff. Even stuff that they didn't know was going to happen that ends up happening. If they want to replay it later, they still have 10 angles of it because they have so much coverage. AEW needs to start getting some people in the truck that are keen, you know, observers that can look out and understand, like, oh, we need to get to, you know, a good shot of that.
Absolutely.
Because they're falling behind still in a little bit in that regard.
Absolutely, bro. So to finish this off, DJ, let's give this a rating. You know, not a star rating because we're not lame like that. You know, A, B, C, D, plus, minus, whatever. What would you rate this show?
Look, you know, I'd probably give this show a B minus. You know, like I really enjoyed this show. Not a ton of stuff. Like if you could have just taken out the Elite 6-man tag at the beginning, then it would have just been maybe even an A minus. Like, you know, aside from the few things that we touched on, the few issues that we have and some of the issues we have with the overall product still, I thought that this was a great step in the right direction. It featured an attraction that was different, that's never been seen on national TV before. It featured a really good tag match. It had, you know, it like sort of continued on a number of storylines and got us interested in like the following next couple of weeks of Dynamite. So yeah, it accomplished a lot of things. So B-.
Yep, I'll give this one a B plus. It could have got an A if we didn't have that opening match be the way that it was. If it was booked properly and they didn't spend that whole time annoying the shit out of me.
You're self-indulgent, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the Archer match was a little better and the women's match was a little better, then this could have been an A plus show. If they wanted it to be, but it is what it is. And they accomplished one goal, DJ. I'm going to tune in next week, which I don't remember the last time I actually was. 2011 for TNA, maybe. Like I wanted to watch next week. So it's been a long time. It's been nearly 10 years for me. So this is pretty big for me as a wrestling fan.
We should watch it together, man, like we did this one, and then possibly do,
Possibly do a review of Homecoming next week. We'll see how we go, bro.
We'll definitely have to do one for the one in Chicago, the First Dance episode.
Absolutely, bro. Well, Juicy Boy, Daniel Johnston, before we go, please plug anything that you want to everyone out there about where to find you and what's going on.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter and at Twitch. Twitch.tv/JuicyBoy. That is JOOSEYBOY. YouTube.com/JuicyBoy. Same. Twitter.com/JuicyBoy. And follow me. I've got my Pulp Free podcast in the works. And, other than that, you can catch me here on the WZWA Network. And you can check me out on Twitch, doing my thing, playing some wrestling games over there.
Excellent, bro. And for me, you can find me on Twitter at Karlifornia WZWA. That's KARLIFORNIAWZWA. And of course, check out our YouTube, which you're on right now, which is stupid. Why am I plugging that? But check out the Insider's Edge podcast. We have some fantastic interviews.
WZWA Network.
That's it, bro. That's it, bro. We have some fantastic interviews. The latest one with Bob Ortiz, ring announcer extraordinaire. He's a fantastic human being, very nice man. So please check that out. He's got a tremendous insight from his time from Tri-State Wrestling to Eastern Championship Wrestling, all the way to the ECW One Night Stand shows. He was there for the whole thing. So you get this whole broad spectrum of his opinion on their time in ECW. But at this time, Juicy Boy, I want to thank you for doing this review show, watching the show with me earlier. I had a lot of fun, and we will hopefully be here next week for Homecoming with AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you as well. It's been great having a discussion with you, and a pleasant surprise with the show this evening. So, yep, until next week, yeah.
Thanks, Juicy Boy. And thank you, everyone out there, for watching us here on the WZWA Network. This review show of Fight for the Fallen and AEW Dynamite. We will see you next time. Thank you.
Take care, guys.